Well, this morning on Turf Business TV, I'm joined by Chief Exec of BIGGA, Jim Croxton. Good morning, Jim.
Morning, Martin.
Big announcement this morning, and I'm sure your phone is a bit hot this morning with people calling you. So, do you just want to talk us through the bare bones, and then we'll pick up on some detail?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Martin. Happy to give you some information. Obviously, BTME is kind of just under 6 months away, and we set ourselves as a business an internal deadline at the end of July to kind of make a firm decision either way on this. With the situation as it is, we don't believe we can host a safe event for exhibitors, for visitors, for my own staff, and even for the media, for you guys. And on top of that, we don't really think we can host BTME, the kind of event BTME is in this kind of socially distant sort of world anyway. So sadly, we've cancelled the event in January, which is the big thing for us. It's a big part of our year. We are going to carry on with our conference. We're going to run that virtually, and we'll extend that over probably something like 2 weeks. And hopefully even offer sort of more education than we've been doing in the past. You know, the options for doing this virtually are almost limitless. So we're working really hard on that. And we have announced today that we're working very hard on an alternative event, working title Festival of Turf, an outdoor event in the summer, probably going to be early June. We're looking at a few venues, but we want to try and get all of our key audiences together. And so far, we've done a bit of consulting, as you'd expect, with key exhibitors and our audience. And there seems to be a reasonable amount of positivity towards us doing that. So all hands to the pump, but yeah, a big announcement today.
So that's been made today. Have you had much reaction this morning yet, or has it been a bit stunning?
Yeah, no. At the moment, it's sort of only really social media actually coming in. We've had our first exhibitor inquiry for the summer, which is pretty good. Bearing in mind we haven't announced where, when, or what, so that's a pretty good thing. But so far, I think the reaction seems to be a lot of people saying, you know, shame, but it's the right decision. And we were certainly in the last few weeks getting the feedback from visitors and exhibitors that they were nervous about attending, and they were nervous about, for example, sending staff to attend. And we felt, and you know, we've been strong the last few months that the most important thing for our organisation is greenkeeper safety. And so it would be hypocritical of us to say we want you to be safe all year round, but then we want you to risk, you and your colleagues by coming to an event indoors and coming together. So it was inevitable.
There's a big social element to BTME in Harrogate. Anybody who's been in Witherspoons during the show knows that, a metre social distancing in there alone would be difficult. But actually running a trade show with busy corridors like it is at Harrogate, just not practical, is it? You can't do that. You're going to have either reduced numbers of visitors. I guess exhibitors aren't going to have as much space because you're going to have stands between them. And financially, it wouldn't be viable either, surely.
Yeah, I think from a financial perspective, BTME is a big thing for us. It's quite a decent part of our turnover, but we were prepared to. In fact, we budgeted early on for the fact that we probably wouldn't, if we even ran BTME next year, it would be financially very different. So it wasn't a financial decision for us. It is primarily safety, and it's easy to say, but it's the truth. I'm looking at my own team every couple of days on a Zoom call, thinking I wouldn't ask any of you to go somewhere unsafe. Now I'm not going to do so in January. But really, the BTME event itself, which you've been to many times, and lots of events like it, are about people coming together. And when you're saying to everybody, you can come together, but you can't, it just doesn't work for our event. It is a key event for the trade, and they do point to business done in the halls, but it isn't a kind of a trade buying show where, as an example, the event the week before us every year in Harrogate is where the Christmas industry places its orders for the following year. I expect that event will go ahead one way or another because the nation's buyers have to go and look at the range of products and have to say, this week I'm buying those to get ready. We know that we can find alternative ways. We know that a delay until the summer of getting them together can work for our industry. So we think this is the right call.
And was the Nightingale Hospital that's set up in Harrogate there an issue for you?
It is an issue only in that if we had wanted to go ahead with the event, it may have caused a problem. At the moment, the contract with the hospital is only until I think next week, but I know it's being discussed about extending. We have been told we wouldn't know until October whether the venue would be free in January. Now, that would have been too late to make a call. To suddenly say, right, we're moving to a different venue at 3 months' notice would be, well, it'd be blooming different for my team, I'll put it that way, and certainly very different for all the exhibitors who've made plans. But really, no, we're trying not to hide behind that as a major issue. It obviously caused speculation, but in the end, I think the point I've made a few times to people is if we still got a Nightingale Hospital in January, then we wouldn't be holding a show anyway, whether it was in our a venue or not.
You mentioned speculation there. There's been rumour and speculation about perhaps you and GMA, as it is now called, had a discussion about joining forces for the show that they've moved to, the NEC, in March. Was that ever seriously on the table, Jim?
Not for us, no. I've spoken to Jeff, obviously, to let him know what we're doing. We have a good relationship, and they're always very kind to us with their announcements. We've done the same. We support each other. I commend the work they've done on Saltex the last few years. They put some really good events on the NEC. I hope that their event works well in March, but we never considered joining forces with that event in this way. We feel that our event has enough unique selling points to it that it needs to be on its own, and that we can create something in the summer which will tick enough of those boxes to make that worthwhile.
Okay. So BTME, not 2021 in Harrogate, but back in 2022?
Absolutely, that's the plan, yeah. And we'll be communicating with our exhibitors today as the day goes on, explaining what their options are. We've always been very fair, I think, with our exhibitors, and we intend to continue being fair. I hope that many of them will support us in an alternative event, but there's no compulsion. We want them to be there because they want to be, not because they feel they've had their arm twisted. But we do hope that we see everyone back happily in Harrogate in, hopefully, no social distancing, as you say, standing in the pubs and having a good chat from morning till night. That's the plan. It's
what makes Harrogate a great event, in my opinion, or part of what makes Harrogate a great event, as well as the education. And as you say, the education programme will still happen, and you're going to use things like this to make it happen. So that's great.
Yeah.
So let's look a bit more positively then, and let's talk about the Festival of Turf. Festivals have kind of two images. You've got your Glastonbury and your kind of dirty toilets and wallowing around in mud, or you've got Goodwood Festival of Speed. I'm going to assume you're going for the latter type.
Well, I think maybe a mixture of all of them. We'll take the good bits from all of them. I think we'd quite like, certainly the plan is a 2-day event with an evening event in between. And I'd quite like to be some entertainment at that evening event. So we might just, I'm not sure we're going to get the Rolling Stones. So that probably isn't going to be, we're not going to quite hit Glastonbury levels. But we obviously our members are used to visiting kind of events during the summer. The trade regularly have kind of demo days, and we want to try and take the best of that. Festival of Speed is an interesting one because there's something about that event. I've never been, but I've seen so much imagery of it. It's colourful. People come together, they marvel at new innovation, and it's a kind of really upbeat kind of feeling. We've got 3 venues that we're looking at, all of which can kind of put an event on which I think gives us the best of all the things we're trying to achieve. There's one venue that's probably kind of slightly ahead right now. We've said that we're going to consult with trade and with our members just over the next couple of weeks to kind of make sure we're making the right decisions. We want it to be more cost effective for our, well, not more cost effective, but I want it to be cheaper than BTME. BTME, it's a big event. It's 3 days. It's an indoor venue. There's a certain cost to the exhibitor, not just in booking the space with us, but in everything that goes around it. We want to reduce that dramatically so that the event is a little less kind of high spec, and hopefully therefore will work in a world. I'm imagining you guys are in business. You'll be talking to the same customers I am. Yeah. That 2021 is probably going to see some downturn in spending. So I'm certainly not going to go out to guys and say, great news, I want to spend all that money in a different way. We're looking to do it a little bit more cost effectively.
I have to ask the question. Obviously business is an important element of what funds BIGGA. Is this a revenue grab, really?
I thought you'd send me at least one bold question. I can answer honestly that it isn't. If it turns out to be very revenue positive, then I'll be delighted, because as a not-for-profit organisation, whatever we generate, we then spend back on our members in services. We've had to look very closely at our budget for the next 2 years. We've budgeted to have one event, one BTME, and only over the 2 years, and we budgeted to make sure the other events kind of wipe their feet, and that's really where we're trying to get to. If it's very successful, then I'll be delighted, and it'll enable us to put on a great event and support our members better. But no, we're midway through a kind of staff restructure, which is hopefully enabling us to cut our cloth appropriately for the next couple of years.
Okay, and you need to generate revenue, so it's not a by any means a negative comment from my point of view, because I do exactly the same.
No, absolutely right. Yeah.
Again, looking forward to the event. Is it planned to be over 1 day, 2 days?
2 days will be the plan. I think that would give us kind of 1.5 evenings, in terms of trying to create something akin to the vibe of a BTME. So there'll definitely be a middle night, and one would hope there'll be a first night as well, because a lot of the exhibitors will be in town, and hopefully people will travel to spend the full day. We'll put on 2 or 3 seminars a day, hopefully some big names, just to give the day some structure. We're not going to run a conference all the way through it. We want people to be engaging with the exhibitors. We would like the sun to shine, but I can't control that. We do have contingencies at the venues we're looking at, that if the weather is bad, we can make it work. But I like the idea of seeing a good number of our trade and our members and visitors outside, sort of chewing the fat, and it could even be the first time a lot of our members have got together with the trade and with each other. And there'll be some smaller events between now and then, but it ought to be the first event that greenkeeping certainly comes out in force. So if we do it right, I think it'll be a positive event.
With it doing it right and being positive, is it hoped that it might become a long-term project and you do this annually, or is it really just a one-off?
Genuinely, we're doing it as a one-off, but naturally, if it's a roaring success and our trade say to us, we'd like to do something like this again, then we'd look at it. It's hard to predict, but if we were to do something like that, I think it would be something we would tour. So I think it might be we do it every other year, for example, but we do something, we'd move around the country a little bit, I think. But I don't think we want to put on another event that gets locked into a location. But realistically, I want to get to next June and hope that we've achieved something positive. And if there's a world out there that says do that again, then great. Some of my team may not be pleased because they're used to running one event a year, and to throw in another one might be difficult. But you're in the event business as well. You know how these things can get you going.
Absolutely do. So we wish you success with that. Festival of Turf, great ring, and we'll certainly be turning up. I'm assuming we're invited to come along and take part in that. The reason that's kind of come about is because of the situation we're in with the COVID pandemic. I know BIGGA have been quite active, and you've got a grant scheme, I think, in operation for golf clubs at the moment. So there's some financial support that you're helping people with, or access to it anyway. Mental health, I guess, is going to be a big issue, because people are going to be under pressure both in their working environment, or even under pressure because they may not have any work or a job. What are you seeing in terms of your support structure that you've got in place? Is it being taken up more?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it was interesting the early weeks of the crisis. I'm thinking back now. It seems a long time already, doesn't it? Go back to March, and the numbers were, they were terrifyingly big in terms of hundreds and thousands of people affected. But realistically, in a population of 60 million, it was really small numbers of people physically affected, but yet I think it was a mental challenge for all of us, and there was so much fear around through March and through April. People worried. I mean, my father was very poorly at the time, and I was incredibly worried that if he touched the wrong thing or came into contact with the wrong person, he might be taken before his time. And I think it affected everybody's mental health in that respect. It certainly created quite a lot of hysteria, so that the responses to how golf, and particularly how greenkeeping dealt with the crisis, were interesting. We had some fun moments, a lot of anger and fear around that, and then that settled down now into a time when I think that fear has been replaced, the fear of the physicality of illness, with fear of what it means economically. We're seeing a number of clubs make redundancies or change their staffing structure. That's going to continue. I wish it wasn't. I'm not a doom monger, but it's going to continue. And we have seen an uptake in the need for support, both individually by our team of membership services managers and of our particular offers, such as our counselling helpline. We put a number of our team on furlough back in April. Nearly everybody is now back, either part-time or more. And certainly those team of people that are helping members face-to-face are getting busier in that respect. And I think, you and I can be a little bit proud that joined forces 3 years or so ago with trying to bring mental health to the fore, particularly at BTME, but more broadly. And what's really nice is that some of the things that we have kind of started have started to grow organically. We gave our achievement award last January to a guy that started a Facebook group, and he's done a lot for the industry, but the Facebook group was in some ways a very small thing, but that's been hugely active the last few months. So much support, and I've seen some incredibly touching messages on there. People who say, that group has saved their lives, and that's not down to you and I, but I think we helped the conversation start, and I'm really pleased with that.
Jim, I think we're going to see a lot more people taking that up over the next few months, maybe years even, as we get through this. But it's good to know that you're doing what you can to help, and both financially and mentally for your members, and some real support for them. Let's just end on a positive with Festival of Turf, which is a name I really like. Actually, I wish I had.
Yeah, it's a working title, but it may stick. Yeah.
You're saying early June. Do you know when you're going to officially announce venue and firm dates?
Yeah, we'd like to get that dealt with by the end of this month. I'd like to get into September, which has always felt like the start of term for me. September, the summer holidays finished. I'd like us to be running then with a date and a venue and a sales plan, and be talking to exhibitors. So it gives us around 4 weeks, I think, to get our act together. We're most of the way there in terms of venue selection. So it's just pricing, contracts and that sort of thing the next couple of weeks, and a bit of consulting to make sure that we're not completely in cloud cuckoo land.
Well, we look forward to hearing that, Jim, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you in a sunny venue, wherever it is, with an ice cream and maybe a pint on a bench somewhere, yeah?
We'll definitely have an ice cream. Yeah, look forward to that.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
Thanks, Martin.